Hello everybody and welcome back to another video on my channel. It is Kevin here, and today we are going to talk about something that I feel like a lot of people get a lot of anxiety and stress over. First, a couple of things, because I always have to say something before I talk, and you know how I am. I just got out of the shower, of course, so ignore the shower hair. And I'm trying out this new spot to record sit-down videos in front of DAMIAN'S shelves, as you can see, American Girl dolls, graphic novels, because it's the best spot where we get natural light, and it happens to be in front of a bookcase. Even though it's not my books, it still looks cute, right? I don't know, comment below, let me know if this is okay or if I should move. Anyway, moving on to today's topic. Today is about when you have the call with a literary agent. Now, this is gonna be partial tips, partial my story, just so you can get, I think it's nice to get like the perspective of what goes on in that call, or what goes on, like what has happened in actual people's calls. So I figured I would talk a little bit about what happened with my call, what you can do to prepare for it, what questions you can ask, things like that. Is this going to be all-encompassing in like the best video to watch? Probably not. You should still do more research besides this video, but I mean, this is a great jumping point, you know? It's a great jumping point. First, I'm gonna go ahead and just tell my story really quickly. It's not a very long one because I've already told how I got my literary agent story, which I can go ahead and link in the description above, but I am gonna actually redo that video, I think either next week or the week after, because that video in particular, I recorded a very long time ago before I started recording on my nicer camera, and like I kind of knew what I was doing on YouTube, so it's kind of like all over the place. So I'll go ahead and link that above, but like, don't feel pressured, I'm gonna redo it anyway. The way it happened was, I actually remember the specific day it happened because I sent my book. If you don't know, my literary agent is Rena Rossner. She's amazing. She's with the Deborah Harris Literary Agency. They are based in Israel. She is amazing and I love her. I remember I sent the book to Rena on Friday, and I sent my book to Rena on Friday, and she emailed me the next morning, said she'd stayed up all night reading it and she wanted to have the call with me, and she just said she wanted to call to discuss things. And I have heard from other sources that sometimes, I've heard as much as 50% to 75% of the time, these calls are R&Rs, which is a revise and resubmit. So like an agent will give you feedback and you can do that feedback and resubmit to that agent and see if they want to sign you. I personally have never, this is something that I'm just now recently hearing. I've never heard that percentage being that high before. In my experience with the people I know and what I've read online, a majority of the time when it's the call, it is an offer of representation. It's not always, I'm not saying it always is, that is definitely not true, but these percentages I've been hearing lately are kind of much more inflated than I've ever had the understanding of in the past. That, I guess you could do more research on, because maybe I'm incorrect, maybe the people I've heard it from are incorrect. I don't know. I'm sure there's somewhere you can look. I just wanted to throw it out there that that is not a percentage that I've heard before, because 75% seems really high. Rena emailed me, said she wanted to discuss the book with me. I don't remember exactly what she said, but she said she wanted to discuss my writing and the book. And in the email, she gushed about how much she loved it. So I kind of had a feeling, because like I said, it can sometimes be an R&R. I kind of knew that she was gonna offer representation based on what she had said in the email, but you know, it's still super nerve-wracking. It's still, I'm not gonna lie to you and sugarcoat this and say like, oh, you're gonna go into it and you're gonna be like, because you might be, but it doesn't matter if you know they're gonna offer representation. Like I said, like of course she might not have, but like I had like a 99%, like I kind of 99% thought she was going to. So like, even knowing that, I still went into it very nervous, because it is a nerve-wracking situation to be in. It's like excitement and scariness and like, oh my gosh, this is really happening. She emailed me Saturday, said she wanted to talk the next day, which was Sunday. Now, this day stands out very clearly to me because I used to work on Sundays at my current job, and it was very slow. So I was basically just a monitor person, but I had to go into the office. And it was the morning after the Pulse shooting, and I had just woken up because I worked super early. And so I went to work and I had just found out about it. And it was a really emotional day. I remember I went to the bathroom stall, and like, it was supposed to be like this happy moment where like, I'm gonna have the call with my potential agent. Like she's, you know, we're gonna talk about things, and like this really horrific thing happened. And I remember I went to the bathroom stall and like started crying, and I came back because there was a supervisor in, and I told him, like, I was like, he knew what was going on. Like, obviously everyone in the country knew what was going on. I was like, I really think I just need to go home and like, you know, just not be at work. And he totally was like fine with it, and he sent me home. And like the whole drive home, just like these weird conflicted feelings, because I knew this call was coming up, and at the same time, like this insane tragedy to my community had happened, and it was just very jarring and a weird juxtaposition of emotions. I remember because I got home, and at the time I was living with my sister Laura, my brother-in-law Aaron, and I went to my room and I was just like sitting there like thinking about everything that was happening and knowing that my phone call was coming up soon, because Israel's like ahead of time, so I think it was like 10 p.m. where she was at, and it was like really early, I think like 11 a.m. or something. And I remember I emailed her and I was like, you know, left work early, so I'm free to talk whenever you'd like. And I think she called me shortly thereafter, and I'm feeling a little emotional. I wasn't expecting to feel emotional. It's very weird. I remember she just started off talking about what she loved about my book and about my writing, which is what she said in the email, and saying that like things that police shooting, what happened, tragedies like that, she said are reasons why books like mine need to exist in the world to normalize, you know, homosexuality and bisexuality, all the LGBT stuff. Is that like a lot of people are so scared of it and stuff like, I don't know. I feel a little emotional, which I was not expecting this at all, so it's very strange. Sorry. It was just a weird emotion because of course she was saying all this and in my head I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. She doesn't work. At the same time, it's like, I could be murdered for just being who I am. I don't know. It was a lot of emotions, and let's just move on. She asked me things about the book. I don't remember exactly what she asked me, to be honest. Like 100% what she asked me. I remember what I asked her, which I'm gonna tell you in a second, but what she asked me, I don't remember 100% all the things. I do remember her like asking me like what I see out of my career as a writer, and I asked her a lot of things, such, I'll just skip on to what I asked her, because agent to agent, they're gonna ask you different things, and I guess this is the part of where I'm gonna start slipping in some tips for you, and then I'll go back to the story. I asked these questions. I would recommend asking these. And also, one thing that most agents ask on a call is what you're working on next. So make sure you have that in mind. They don't always ask you. I don't even think Rena asked me because she believed in me and my work that she like was willing to accept anything that I wrote, which she's still like that. She's amazing. But a lot of agents will ask you what you're working on next. So even if you are not currently working on it, have an idea of what you want to work on next or what your next project is going to be, because a lot of agents will ask. I asked her, how long will she have a book out on submission before she pulls it? Because this is something that I think it was an interesting question when I read it online, because I did lots of research, like what kind of questions should you ask on a literary agency call? And there's a lot of things that come up a lot, which I'm gonna tell you in a second, but one was, how long does a book go out? How long will you have a book out in submission with editors before you pull it? And this is something that I think you should ask your agent or your potential agent whether or not they tell you the truth, because I do know for a fact that there are some agents who will only have it out for a certain amount of time or a certain amount of editors before they pull it. And even if you, that's the next one actually. I'll stay on this one and then the next point. And so I asked Rena that, and she told me, you know, like she is going to try every person that she thinks that it will fit with. Doesn't have a set like 6 months or 60 editors or 5 editors or 5 weeks. She said, I will do research, you know, and as she meets more people that she thinks it would be a good fit with, she's never officially like done. Like it's never officially dead. It's just, she will send it who she thinks like it could work with. And that was like the perfect answer for me, because like I don't like thinking a set 10 people and then they're done. It's like, okay, well then what if you met at a conference this 11th editor who you think would be perfect, but you're like, oh, well that's dead. Like there are some agents like that, so I think that you should ask that question. The next one is, are you a, I don't remember exactly how I worded it, so maybe think of how you would word this question, but basically is, are you a career agent or a book agent? Is like, do you see yourself agenting me? Don't say it like this. Do you see yourself being my agent for just this project or for my career? Because this was something that I really was looking for in an agent, is I wanted someone that was in it for the long haul with me. I don't want to be jumping around agents. I didn't want to have an agent, you know, for one book and then be like, oh, well, I'm gonna move on to a new one. Or like, I wanted to find someone that I meshed with, that I knew would see me throughout my career as a writer. And when I asked Rena that, she was like, seemed a little surprised. She was like, oh, your career, of course, like I'm in this, like she believed in my writing. She told me that. She's like, I'm in this for your career. I don't want to be just this book. Of course you sign on with your agency for that one book. Like my official agency contract says it's for that one book, but there's like a stipulation, not a stipulation, but there's like a thing in the actual contract that mentions further projects. It's like, if you so choose to work together after this project or something like that. But for the actual, at least in my agency, the official contract states the book. And it had the book name, which was like really wild. When I saw it, I was like, oh, this is so weird. I'm like signing a contract with my name. It has my agent's name, and like I was still like in that agent. And the book name, which was very, very surreal to me. I actually think that the name that's on that manuscript is not even what we ended up landing on in the end. Little funny bit. And that was the second question I asked her was, you know, do you see me as like a lifetime or you know, book, just one book. And luckily I really lucked out, because I did ask Rena, I said, another questions I asked her, which this is something you can find on agents' websites or like a manuscript wish list or Twitters is what genres do you represent? Because now look, even if you have this, even if you know this information, I think you should word it similar to how I did, which was, if I choose to write in different genres, will you still be my agent? Because there are agents supposedly, I don't think I've like heard this in the rumor mill, and it doesn't hurt to ask, because like an agent, I think when it's kind of like a job interview. If you have questions, it's not annoying. It's like, unless you're like, when do I get to go on smoke breaks? You know, like that would be an annoying question in an interview. But I wasn't sure if she was like a very like, you write in this lane. And she told me, she's like, whatever you decide to write in, I will represent it. You know, as long as I send it to her and she's not like absolutely like, this is terrible. And then I was like, oh yeah, you're right. She put that to rest, that I was a little worried about that. I was a little worried that I was like, okay, what if I want to write like this kind of book in the future and I don't have an agent for that because my agent, but yeah, she was awesome. That was awesome. Something very specific for Rena that I asked her, because I knew that before she was a literary agent, she was actually a foreign rights agent. So she dealt with selling foreign rights to specifically Israel, because I don't remember if it's like very specific, you had to go through that agency. There was some like weird stipulation. Rena was a foreign rights agent for specifically Israeli translations, and then also for all the foreign rights at her agency. And so I asked her, which is a very specific her question. So this is something that you could also do, is do a little research into your agent, like what did they used to do at the literary agency and things like that, so you can kind of cater your questions to be more, you know, for that agent. I asked her, when you typically sell, do you sell just English rights or do you sell worldwide? Because something that some people may not know if you're not further into publishing yet is that if you sell worldwide rights, you tend to, that just means that you're giving that publisher rights to publish it in any language they want to. They then get to sell it to other places and get money off of it. Now, if you only sell English rights, it could be good sometimes because that means you can get a bigger lump sum. But if your agent can then sell them individually themselves, then you can make more money, basically. But not all agents, I mean, there's nothing necessarily wrong with worldwide rights. I was just curious how Rena did it in particular. Another thing that Damien just reminded me, because I was kind of blanking on what I asked, I did ask her what percentage she takes, because okay, so I have known someone, I'm not gonna put anyone on blast, who was confused why the agent got a percentage of your sale. That was very confusing to me. Your agent does a lot of work and they do not get paid until you sell something. That's why agents go so ham and so hard for you, is because they want to sell, because not only do they believe in you, but they're not getting paid until you get paid. So like, they're doing all this work essentially for free until you get paid and they get paid. So I did ask Rena what percentage she took, and from what I understand from everyone I've talked to, everything I've done on everything I've researched online, 15% is the average. An agent says 15%, don't be like, what? Because also you need to remind yourself, they don't get paid until you get paid. And they're doing so much work for you, so much work. They're doing contract negotiations, they're doing foreign rights, they are editing your manuscript, they are pimping you out to all these editors. You know, they are building up your career. They are sometimes your PR agent, your freaking rock to cry on. I've sent so many emails to Rena being like, I'm a freaking fraud, I am an imposter, what is happening, why? Trust me, they deserve the 15%. Going back to the story of how I got Rena, we talked a lot, you know, questions back and forth, and then she offered representation. And so the standard when you have this phone call is you ask for, and most agents, I would say like most agents are used to this, so if any of them are like really angry or flabbergasted by this request, that should be a red flag for me. But you ask for 2 weeks because most agents understand that, I would say all, that you're not sending exclusively to them, that your manuscript is then out with lots of other people as well, and you need to get back to those other agents. You know, you don't just want to pull the rug out from underneath them. You may want to, and even if you know right away you're going to sign with that agent, because I knew immediately I was going to sign with Rena. Like I like fell in love with her immediately, that I was like, yep, this is it. You don't want to pull the rug out from underneath other agents without them at least like throwing their hat in the ring, because it is just an etiquette thing in publishing, and it may be so exciting. You may just want to be like, yes, you know, I want to, yes, because it's exciting. You've been sometimes working on this for years and years and years, and you're ready. Don't ask for the 2 weeks so you can let the other agents who, as a respect thing, let them get back to you, because it's just common courtesy. I forgot where I was at. You ask for the 2 week so you can respectfully let the other agents know and see if they want to offer representation. Rena immediately was like, of course. I think she even said, like, I'm not gonna let you say yes right now anyway, even if you wanted to, because that's just common courtesy in the publishing world. You don't want to just jump in and, you know, be rude. Oh, so I asked for that. I got off the phone with Rena. It was a super amazing phone call. And as soon as I got off the phone call, I immediately started crying. It was already a very emotional day, like I said. And just on top of that, I had been writing for so long, and I've wanted to be a writer for so long, and I saw this as a step in the journey of wanting to be a writer, and I could not believe that an agent wanted to work with me and like believed in my work as much as I did, and it made me start crying. And I didn't tell Rena that for maybe like a year, and she's like, what, you didn't tell me that? And I was like, I was embarrassed. Like, I immediately started crying. I was like so just like happy and like still sad about everything going on in the world, and it was a very emotional experience. One other tip I'm gonna give you is I constantly feel like Rena's gonna email me one day and just be like, you know, this isn't working anymore. But I recently had a conversation, me and my agent siblings all have a group chat, and we started talking in there recently, and turns out like 95% of my agent siblings said the same thing. Agent sibling is someone that you share an agent with, in case you don't know. 95% of them said the same exact thing. They're all worried about this. I think that is a common fear, and so don't freak out. I'm not gonna lie to you, there are agents who will let go of their clients. That does happen. I would say it's not I mean, I don't know if it's common. There are various reasons. There are some agents who will let you go if you don't sell quick enough. That is a thing that I know for a fact some agents do. That one's not as common. It doesn't happen as often as you think. In fact, most of the time from what I hear personally, again, this is my personal experience, it tends to be the writer who is firing the agent. Something to keep in mind is a lot of times, myself included, especially when I first signed with Rena, because like I didn't know how to have an agent. I never had one before, is you should never be afraid of your agent. It should be a partnership. You should mesh with them and get along with them. When I talked to Rena on the phone, I feel like we immediately clicked. She understood my writing. I loved like what she had in store for me, like career-wise and like my story-wise, and you should really click with them. If you are scared to talk to them or email them or whatever, you know, however you communicate, I think you should step back and ask yourself why that is. If you get a weird vibe off of the phone call, that could just be your jittery nerves, but also just like step back from the situation and really think about it, because you really need to, this is someone that you could potentially be working with for 30 years, 40 years. It could be 5 years, it could be 30, whatever. And you want to get along with them. They are for better or worse, they are steering the trajectory of your career. There is some stuff you can do, but for the most part, they are the captain of that ship. Having said that, it is very much a partnership, but when it ultimately comes down to it, if we want to be really technical, the agent is working for you. And I don't mean that to say like, go out and be super to your agent. No, agents are amazing. You should always be respectful and nice. But I have seen people who have not had good experiences with their agents, who their agents were, you know, mean to them and rude to them, and they just did not get along. I've heard lots of horror stories. Again, this is not the norm, so just don't worry. But don't forget that if you are put in a bad position with an agent and you are uncomfortable and you like dread talking to them and you dread receiving emails from them, feedback from them, or you like cry when you get emails from them, just remember that you may have made this step in the journey. And at the time when you signed with them, it might've been the right decision, but it does not mean that you need to stay in that forever. If it becomes abusive, for lack of a better word, I've known some people who have had emotionally abusive relationships with their agents. It is okay to step away and say like, I can no longer work with you. And don't see that as like you're taking a step back in the writing world. Your writing is good enough that you got an agent. It'll happen again. So just keep that in mind. If you need to, you can step away from an agent. It's gonna suck, but it'll be better for your mental health in the long term. Let's say that you have 10 full manuscripts out. Full manuscript reads out with agents. You get an agent who offers to be your agent. And so you take the 2 weeks, you let the other agents know, and none of the other ones offer representation. You know, they all say like, you know, I love this, I pass. So you have the one offer. Do not take that to mean that you have to accept it. Again, if you do not feel like your vision for your career and this agent that did offer some representation, their vision for your career, if they do not mesh, that does not mean you have to say yes. You can say no. And while you may be really tempted to say yes, just because you're like, oh, well, this is my only offer? Like, what if it never happens again? I think you really need to step back and just look at it from an outside perspective and be like, okay, well, like if they saw like a completely different trajectory for my writing, for my career, it's like, is that something that you're gonna be comfortable working with? Are you okay? If you are, that's fine. Some people are willing to, you know, kind of mold more their path with what their agent sees, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. In fact, there's some things I've kind of molded towards like what Rena sees. There's no problem with that, but just keep in mind that you do not have to say it. Having said that, we're gonna go ahead and have a guest star, Damian! So I just have a couple of really quick questions. Is there anything, because you've heard me making this whole video.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you asked your agent that you feel comfortable saying on the call that I did not mention?
No. Do I want you to tell me that?
What are your tips for talking to an agent on the phone? Like when they send you an email, how do you feel when you got your email from your agent, like that they wanted to have to call?
A little bit panic, just kind of panicked. Then, oh my God, I have to talk to someone on the phone.
That was weird. I was like, can't we just email?
I think it's because a lot of agents are like quite a bit older.
Even that though, like even younger agents still want to talk on the phone.
Yeah, I've talked to maybe 3 agents on the phone, including mine.
So weird.
And I thought it was weird that there were some that wanted to talk to me on the phone but didn't want to even sign me. So that was
so okay. How did that happen? Like, when you got the email, did you think that they were gonna offer representation?
I assumed because they were calling me that it was gonna be an offer, like they wanted to talk to me a bit and give me an offer. And I talked to that one agent 3 times, and
so like I said, like this can't happen.
And then they just get you really excited, and then nothing. And then I kept...
How did that conversation end though? Like the person didn't offer representation, but the person didn't offer a revise and resubmit?
No, like they kind of wanted to see, like they liked me as an author or something and kind of wanted to see something else from me. So I would send them different projects, or they'd say, I'd like something like this from you. And so I'd get something like that and I'd fix it up and then send it along, and then they'd just say something like this, but not this, basically.
So keep in mind that can happen.
It's like when someone's like, I don't know, like I want a gay retelling of a fairy tale, but not this one that you wrote. One that's not at all like the one that you wrote, just something else. And you're like, oh, okay, just not mine. And then you come back again. I want a goth picture book, but not your one.
You have a goth picture book?
I wrote one specifically for like an agent because they were really interested in it. And I was like, I can do that. And then I did it, and it's really good. That
just goes to show you that this does happen. You can have calls, apparently. Like, I've heard of this happening, but I didn't think it was that common. Do you think it's common to have phone calls with agents and not get offered representation?
Yeah, don't we know a few people?
I know of at least one other, but I didn't think it was that common.
I know a few people who have had that where like someone kind of leads you around, but then...
But I've heard recently that it's as high as 75% of the phone calls.
Yeah.
I don't know if I believe that. That seems very high to me.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I got my agent when she rejected me and then signed me.
So she rejected you for a previous project?
I sent her a picture book that she turned down. Well, actually, it was a little weird. I sent a picture book idea to the head agent at her agency. Then it was sent to her, and then she didn't want it, but wanted something else from me. And they gave me some ideas, and I already had something in the works that fit one of her ideas, and I sent it to her, and then she signed me.
Is that the book that you sold?
Yeah.
Your memoir?
Yeah.
Okay. See, things can happen in weird ways like that too.
That one was odd. Just don't burn bridges with anyone.
That's what I'm saying. That's why you want to be respectful to agents when you say, like, I need the 2 weeks. And again, if your agent reacts weird. Did you say that to your agent, or did you just sign right away?
What do you mean? 2 weeks? Oh, I went to Simmons College for like children's literature, so I actually
MFA.
Yeah, an MFA program, and I took the contract or like the paperwork or whatever it was, or whatever information, I don't really remember how it went, and I talked to like a professor because they worked at Houghton Mifflin and stuff like that, and you just, I don't know, talk over someone who knows more than you, and they're like, yeah, this all checks out, you should sign, and then someone in my class like made an announcement like, Damien got signed, before I even like officially did.
So that was different because I didn't get my paperwork until I accepted my offer.
Yeah.
So I think that maybe it just depends on the agent.
Yeah.
So I think it was nice having your perspective on here so that you can, so people can see. I don't know if it's any different because Damien did write a graphic novel.
One of the differences with my thing is really that they saw potential in me as an artist/writer, so that was why I think they took a bigger chance on me. So that was that might have had a hand in it. I also had previously published essays online.
Yes. Like
with various things. Like that never hurts to get your words out there, just
unless you publish an article about like how much you hate publishing.
Yeah, I just publish stories. don't do that. I just publish stories about my life in like, where is it, like the Washington Post.
The nib was afterwards, I guess.
Yeah, and Narratively is a decent literary one. And like, it doesn't even have to be a big one, just anything that lets you know that you write. But saying like, I published this thing in Teen Vogue or whatever, and like, it sounds big, like Teen Vogue or Washington Post or whatever, but just find an editor at on Twitter, and if they like your idea, they'll run it.
My friend Kathy, who has an agent and has sold her book, she also, one of the things was she had stuff published.
Yeah.
And they weren't like super big, like one of them was just an online literary magazine, but it helped her get her agent.
Yeah, you just have little pieces out that they can go look at and say, someone else took a chance on you, so I'll take a chance on you.
And they like to just see more examples of your work if possible.
Yeah, and that you're like a diverse client or whatever.
Thanks. Anything else you want to add to your experience? Any last tips for people?
I guess one of the things is don't go straight for major agents. That's one of the things I think people make the issue of is they're like, oh, this New York Times bestseller was done by this agent. I have to pitch to that agent or I'll never get anything. My agent was actually somebody who worked as like, I forget, she had a position at a publisher and then was like, I'm gonna be an agent now. And then I was one of her like earlier clients, I think.
I was not one of Brina's first clients, but she didn't have very many. I think I was like maybe 15. Now she has like 30 something. And at the time she had only sold a few books, and now she's sold New York Times bestsellers. Yeah. And so like, you never know. If you just mesh with an agent, that's what you should care about, is how you feel about the agent one-on-one.
The thing is also, like, if you're going with a newer one, they have more time to spend on you. Yeah. A big agent who's published, I don't know, who has like 8 New York Times bestselling authors are spending a lot of time on them because they know they're where the money is.
Like, and we're being really brutally honest, yeah. Yeah. Because again, it is a business. They don't get paid until you get paid. So like, if they know they can sell a New York Times bestseller, another book by that person, they will. Yeah, and it's not that they don't care about you. It's just that you're not the main focus a lot of the times. And when you're with an agent who's a little bit newer or a little bit fresher or who just really likes your voice or whatever, even if they haven't published a million New York Times bestsellers, I don't know, I think they're worth submitting to. And if they're newer, you could be that New York Times bestseller. Yeah. You could be the person that they end up spending all their time on. Yeah. Hey, well, thank you. I love you. Oh, me too. I just realized we're both pastel queens. And just to do a little editing really quick, make sure I'm gonna put a link in the description below. Make sure you go add Damian's book on Goodreads. Sure. And you can subscribe to him on YouTube if you want. I'll put all of his links in the description below, but especially Goodreads. The whole time might have been a weird angle because I was leaning on this table next, Damian's desk, trying not to fall over, so. Yeah, that is my story in Damian's a little bit, and some tips and tricks and whatever. Not tricks, there's no tricks here. Yeah, that's it for this video. So if you have any more questions about this or any questions about, you know, having an agent or querying or submission or whatever, comment below, let me know, and I could potentially do a video on it. I have lots of video ideas. I have, in fact, video ideas for the rest of this year, but I'm not opposed to throwing in an extra video here and there if you have any questions about anything with the process. I do have more videos coming out about being on submission and things like that, and like I said, redoing how I got my agent. So comment below and let me know if you have any requests for videos, and yeah. Okay, thank you for watching, everybody. If you liked the video, go ahead and hit the like button below. If you love the video, go ahead and hit the subscribe button below. And until next time, goodbye. Bye. Bye.